Kemi Badenoch's political ascent, I'm presumably this is as far as she's ever going to get, is framed by an unusually intense internal drama, the journey from Lagos childhood, overshadowed by an economic collapse, to the heart of the British Conservative Party as its first black leader. Her recent remarks on the Rosebud podcast are therefore revealing she no longer identifies as Nigerian, has not renewed her Nigerian passport since the early 2000s, and speaks of the UK, not Africa, as her home emotionally, politically and existentially. That has angered critics in Nigeria and parts of the British left who see her rejection of dual identity either as betrayal or opportunism. But it is in truth the political logic of naturalisation, a profound loyalty to the society in which one has made one's life, rather than the culture into which one happens to have been born. The same is true, incidentally, of Boris Johnson, who renounced his American citizenship. Her story is not without tension. Badenoch often campaigned for office by invoking her Nigerian roots. Now she distances herself from them. She frames Nigeria as a byword for dysfunction and corruption, the anti-model against which Britain ought to be defining itself. That's not just rhetorical contrast, it's a device to justify her hawkish positions on immigration, crime and welfare. Her identity, in a sense, has become a political instrument, not denied but reframed. She positions herself as both proof of Britain's openness and custodian of its threatened traditions. She is, in short, a British Conservative convert, all the more zealous for having chosen the creed. Now, to the second half of this subject, her sharp and deliberate comparison between Rachel Reeves and Liz Truss. Her Telegraph article this week is not economic commentary, it's a declaration of ideological clarity. And in it she accuses Starmer and Reeves of committing the same fiscal sins that destroyed Truss's premiership, only on a larger scale, with greater arrogance and less honesty. And according to Badenoch, Reeves's £300 billion borrowing programme, her reversal on welfare savings and her decision to tear up fiscal rules have brought the UK to the brink of a debt spiral. And she warns that Britain now spends more on debt interest than on defence, a damning, almost Trussian figure. What's remarkable here is that Badenoch is not defending Truss. On the contrary, she calls the 2022 mini-budget a mistake. Oh, hear, hear. One which Conservatives at least had the good sense to correct. But she uses the ghost of Trussism and the subsequent market crisis to attack Reeves for repeating the experiment without admitting it. In this narrative, Labour is fiscally reckless, not because it taxes too much, but because it spends with impunity and denies the consequences. And Reeves, boxed in by backbenchers and bound by fantasy, becomes the new Kwarteng, though without the prodigious package and without the courage to face the music. Badenoch's political challenge is clear. She needs to own the failures of her party's past without being crushed by them. And that's why she selectively distances herself from Truss while using Truss's experience to justify austerity. Her core claim is that Labour, drunk on the political capital of its victory, is now pursuing policies that will imperil the very voters it promised to rescue. Yet this is not merely fiscal conservatism, it's cultural messaging. Her reference to Britain becoming like Greece before the crisis is not just economic metaphor making, it's civilizational warning. In the same breath, Badenoch paints herself as the defender of British stability, tradition and self-discipline. Her political family, the Conservative Party, becomes the space not just of politics, but of values, belonging and identity. Her words echo the emotional undercurrent of her personal story. A childhood of economic collapse shaped her distrust of socialist promises. A migration shaped her appreciation of British law and order. A rejection of Nigerian identity allows her to speak for Britain without footnotes. And that makes her ideological attack on Rachel Reeves more than technocratic criticism. It's a broader clash between two visions of the state. One, Labour, that promises transformation through investment and redistribution, and another, Badenoch's Conservatives, that promises protection through restraint and tradition. Between Reeves's fiscal elasticity and Badenoch's cultural austerity lies the new frontier of British politics. Kemi Badenoch is not just trying to manage the legacy of trust, she is repurposing it. She uses the memory of a failed Conservative to attack a governing Labour, while subtly rewriting her own identity as both British loyalist and anti-ideologue. Whether it resonates is yet to be seen. I think it won't. It's too complicated. But in blending personal soul-searching with political absolution, she offers a model of leadership that is at once emotionally raw, politically calculating and misdirected. A woman who says she had never belonged in Nigeria is now trying to say she ought to lead Britain. And whether that proves persuasive will depend not only on economics, but on whether the public finds in her story something like its own. And I think they won't. I think they will be utterly confused, as I am. Once again, Badenoch is ill-advised and incapable of presenting her thesis in any form of coherent and understandable way. It is confused, it is chaotic, and it is self-defeating. That is Badenoch, through and through.